Hey guys, what's up? It's Oliver, and this is Chaotically Creating. If you're new here, we kind of do an assortment of everything here, where there's art, music, games. Uh, there'll be more in the future, but I upload vlog-style videos called Wacky Weird Wednesday on Wednesdays, and then a main video, which you're seeing now, on Saturdays. So today we're doing Inktober for 2025. We're starting off with mustache here, and I draw a dragon that has the famous Chinese dragon with the mustache on it. So, okay, so what is Inktober? It's a challenge that was created in 2009, that was to draw an inked drawing based off of a daily prompt. So you can see the prompt list above it. I don't really show it, but I can put a photo up now of what all the prompts were. But some people create really intricate drawings each day just using ink, and there are now so many different variations on it that list out all the different prompts for it. And some of them are like themes, where they'll be like classic horror characters or something like that, or based off of a certain mythology or some sort. But I just did the standard Inktober prompt this year. I did look at some other ones, but I didn't find one that I was really sold on or interested in, so I just did the generic Inktober prompt. But for me, what does Inktober mean? So for my main goal this year was to just draw every day. I'm not looking for finished, renowned pieces, rather the consistency of it. And there were some days that the drawing took me less than 30 seconds. And that's okay. I still drew. And at times this actually felt like I was giving up a little bit. But giving up would have been not drawing anything at all. And every small step is still a step. And you should appreciate the fact that you actually showed up. So I don't like to put too many constraints on it, because I want to be able to achieve it. And if I put too many constraints on it, I'm just going to get stuck before I even start. And having all of these rules and that expectation that it has to be this perfect finished drawing, really in my mind, it kind of ruins the fun of it a little bit. But then it also just puts so much pressure on you. And then if you get a day behind and you still have this now you have 2 of these huge artworks that you have to make, that's a lot, especially if you're spending 1 to 2 hours on each of these drawings. I don't think any of these took me more than 15 minutes, maybe 20, but the dragon probably was one of the ones that took me the longest, just because it was starting out. So I was getting used to everything. So for this, I actually connect quite a few of the drawings to Book of Life, which, if you haven't heard, I'm about Book of Life. I'm writing a fantasy series where it's kind of like Hollow's Moving Castle, steampunk, futuristic Detroit Become Human, robot, sentient being, kind of hobnosh thing together. But I have been trying to connect a lot of these things to the Book of Life. So for this first one, this mustache, this dragon actually is connected to it. It's based off the tourmaline gemstone, which is one of the gemstones for October. I kind of draw a little drawing of it on the side, but it's got that green and that pink. And for this world, dragons are really applicable. They're valued highly, and in turn from that, they are highly sought after, kidnapped, and there's a lot of trappers of them. But they can kind of be based off of everything. There's gemstone dragons, there's elemental ones, there's minerals, just kind of all kinds of things. And now I'm drawing another one that connects to Book of Life. Weave also kind of does too, because I'm weaving all these elements together to create this new story. And I mean, that's kind of what creating art is just weaving all the different elements you like from your muse into one thing. So, but this is Aether, the main character. He is a sparkly dragon. He is the owner of this sentient shop, and he represents Crown because he's the in tarot, which is what I'm using to connect inspiration for building the world. And he is represented by the king of dragonflies. So I drew that, and then that has a crown on it. So in turn, crown. This next one, which is murky, is what the city looks like, where it's the upside down and the surface, and they're mirrored, split between the like abyss and like the deep underground. I don't know. It's kind of just a first very rough sketch of that. And here's one of the few places I use reference photos. I actually only use reference photos on the prompts mustache, deer, sting, ornate, button, and inferno are the only ones of the 31 prompts that I use reference photos. And for me, this was really important, actually, to try it and draw from my imagination. Because the way that you get better at drawing from imagination is you have to do it, and it takes repetition, and then you have to accept the drawings as they are and not try to force perfection on them. And it's really important to take a non-judgmental stance on them, because you can't judge it for drawing it from your imagination. That's really hard, because you're imagining something that doesn't exist, like, in the world, in your brain, you know? And it also, like, put me more in a rut, I felt like, when I was getting stuck looking for reference photos and just not actually drawing, but trying to find that perfect reference photo, which is not going to exist because it's in my brain and it's not, like, someone else didn't think of it. So, really good practice on drawing from the imagination from this, and I actually learned a lot, and I feel like much more confident in it, and I've just been working on it a lot, and I really enjoy doing it, actually. And when I'm like don't really know what to draw, I kind of just sit there and I like just kind of let my brain think, and then like, okay, we thought of a duck, I'm gonna draw a duck then. Or I think of a lot of birds, so I don't know, birds, flamingos, penguins, like that has been, a lot. But for all of these prompts, though, I do keep with drawing in ink. I don't use, like, Indian inks or anything really that fancy. Like, here I'm using a ballpoint pen, which, like, you can argue on what your definition of ink is. And some people don't use color in it. I use markers because it's, like, a form of ink in my mind. So, I don't know. I really don't put a lot of constrictions on it, because I feel like the more constrictions and restraints you put on yourself, the harder it is going to be to continue doing it. So why you're trying to do it and finish it, you might as well feel like give yourself the best possible success rate by making it like almost easy, like too easy, because then you're able to do it and you're like, oh, that's going to take me like 10 minutes. And for me, I have ADHD, and so time blindness is a really real thing, and I got like stuck starting a lot of the times with these, because I would think that it would take me like 2 to 3 hours to do it, when, like I said earlier, it didn't take more than 15 minutes most of the time. So it's really like setting that time constraint almost helps too, of just like, okay, I'm only going to work on it for this much, so that you don't, if you're someone that really gets like in-depth and wants to do that full in-depth thing, put a time constraint on it, so that you're not spending like 6 hours each day doing it. You're going to burn out and not get like anywhere in it. And I've tried doing this, it's been quite a few years now. I guess I have, what sketchbook year was this one? I have the first one I did it with me right here. So it started in 2018, so I'm pretty sure that's how long I've been doing Inktober, and I'm pretty sure I've attempted it every year since then, so that's 7 years, and I've never completed it until this year. So, like, it's not like I just picked this up this year and tried it and did it in the first year. No, I've been trying this for quite a few times, so it takes a lot of courage and, like, dedication to it. So, and it's kind of what, like, one of the big things that I wanted to take this moment and why I made a full video for it is because I feel like in today's society, Um, we're really like go, go, go kind of society and rush to get to the next thing immediately after you complete some big accomplishment. Like, there's no acknowledgement of the hard work that you've gone through, the pain that took to push through the rough part, because all big things have a rough point to them. And we just gloss over it and kind of pretend like it didn't really happen. But where was it? I feel like I lost a section of what I was going to talk about. Oops. Yeah, I don't know where that went, but basically what I'm trying to say is, like, appreciate these, like, big projects and these things that you do, because, like, each one of these days, like, feels small in the sense that, like, I have broom right here. This is probably the prompt that took me the least amount of time and is probably the most unprofound thing ever. But I still did it. That broom wouldn't have existed if I didn't, have that prompt. So there's still something, and I showed up, and that's what you got to do when you're trying to push through the days that I didn't want to, and the hard times with it. I had to make it just as simple as possible and make it, like, there was also that challenge of, like, sometimes I would just want to sit on it and, like, be like, oh, I'm going to think of some revolutionary idea. And it's like, no, just draw whatever comes to mind first. Like, you don't have to make it super intricate every time. There were days that, like, the prompt was pretty generic. Like, we have button later on, and I'm really proud of that one. That one's definitely one of my favorites. But I don't think of, like, the generic, like, push button or, like, a button for, like, close or, like, sewing button or something like that, which I feel like I would research, like, see, like, look up prompts or, like, the hashtag on Instagram. I'd look it up, kind of see what other people are doing for it to get inspiration. But I wouldn't do it for very long, because that's also, like, you can get really dangerously into doom scrolling there. But so now we're drawing a fancy drink, which the prompt is drink. This is also for Book of Life. It is a, like, fantasy trance kind of drink. It's called Dream Draught. And this is one where, like, I created all these little doodles for this. So, like, it's not to say that I can't come back and make something more finished for this. Like, Heavy the Turtle is another perfect example of how I connected it to Book of Life and how it's going to get further expanded. So I don't know much about this character yet, this turtle character that's carrying all of these things. But I used the color cubes, and there was number 292. There's 500 of these color cards that have 5 to 6 color swatches on them. But I picked 292, and it has a turtle on there, and I was like, oh, there is definitely a character that's like a turtle human in this world. And I don't know the name. I really don't know what archetype they represent yet or what, but they really represent me in the sense that, like, I always feel like I'm the pack mule, just, like, bringing my whole house around with, like, all of the things that I want to do in case I get bored or have free time. So I'll be, like, carrying, like, a book, a note, like, a sketchbook, the, like, pencil case to go along with it, then probably a pleasurable reading book, and then there's the possibility of more journals after that. It's you never know when you're going to have a moment that you need to do something. But I don't know what I'm going to want to do in that moment or what the situation's going to call for. So I always have a backpack with me. Anyways, here is another one where we're doing Ragged. And this is the clown character in the Book of Life. And he represents Pisces energy, because the world is based off of the zodiac wheel. and certain elements of the zodiac wheel are personified, or they're like actual realms in the world. But the clown is Pisces, and it's the duality. It's the magician archetype, so we have like that trickster kind of energy, but also like many people are afraid of clowns, but they're presented as this like cheerful, funny kind of character person. But they're also, on the other hand, often in a horrific kind of portrayed lens, and they are two-faced, wearing multiple hats. So the clown represents that aspect of it, and the duality of good versus evil, top versus bottom, just like equal opposites, is so prevalent in the world. There's the above ground, and then there's the surface or the underground. It's not the literal underground, but it's called the underground. And so it's society divided, and like that huge divide kind of thing that we're really starting to see in like today. It's futuristic, but it's very much it will be very much a metaphor for what is currently happening in the world. So that's really exciting to see. And just really like I've been actively working on writing this book now for the last 2 months, where I do stuff for it every day that's like building something for it. A lot of world building goes into fantasy, and that's not really talked about, but I like want these characters to be fleshed out and built them and let them build themselves and this world build itself, instead of me trying to force it. And that means following all these different path lines and trying to figure out what works and what doesn't. And but there's just so much world building that goes behind in fantasy. Okay, before I go and talk more about fantasy world building and all that goes into that, there are some more symbolism, or not symbolism, but connections here. So we have Blunder, where the aspect of time in this world is a lot different, and especially concept of death and life and the societal viewpoint of it. But I still haven't quite figured out how it's working, and that's kind of part of the process, where I'm still learning a lot about what the world wants to be and not what I'm trying to force it to be. And I really have to give it that space, to that time, to make it become what it is meant to be. So the next one here is Ornate, and this one I look up a reference photo of I can't remember, it's just a building that I think is Victorian style, but Victorian style is part of one of the critical like style influences of the time, especially because steampunk originated from the Victorian era. It's if we took the technology from the Victorian era and evolved it differently. And since it's futuristic, there's kind of that cyberpunk energy a little bit to it as well. And also mixed with a lot of the Japanese roof styles, where it's the multiple buildings of roofs. And then the Russian onion-shaped buildings. Now here we have Magnus being an absolute nuisance and demanding he sit in my lap. This happens a few times throughout the video. And he just headbutts a bunch, and it makes it hard to draw, but that's okay. Love him nonetheless. And he makes his cameo once again, because he needs all of the attention. Anyways, so we're working on this one, but so kind of fantasy is all built off of metaphor, right? And it's like a metaphor for a feeling, a fear, truth, something that we can't quite put into words. And so these metaphors, the magic, the kingdoms, gods, what have you, are all stand-ins for real emotions or systems trying to understand. So we can take the clown, for example. It is a metaphor for the parts that we don't want to look at of ourselves. And often our fears are the very thing holding us back, what we need to look at and confront. Facing fears isn't necessarily about defeating them, but rather seeing what lies beyond the mask or the face paint. the clown in this world may look and feel evil, but when you really look, you begin to understand, when you really look and think, that the clown isn't evil but honest. It forces you to look at the parts of yourself that you hide. It also is the fake smile that many of us wear, not wanting to truly say how we were feeling and admit to it not being smooth sailing. Because it takes courage to face the clown, your fears. It's intimidating and scary, and so the clown is terrifying in this. And I don't know, I love, like, it makes me want to make him scarier, because it just, like, the rawness of it, of what it really takes in real life, you know? And I think that's one of the beauties of horror that many don't understand, because they're just looking at it from a perspective of fear. But I think that's one of the, like, best part about it is, like, how it's referencing something in real life. But here we have Deal, and games are a heavily big influence in the channel. I have made a Halloween costume that has cards on it and just all kinds of stuff. You should really go check it out. I'll put a link in here, probably, hopefully, if I remember. But games are heavily influenced by it, and we have someone called the Pumpkin King in it, so he is on the Jack, which doesn't necessarily make sense, but also Jack Skellington, so it works out for other reasons. But and now this is a yin yang that I'm making, except instead of it being black and white, it's rainbow versus, like, checkered, kind of representing colored versus black and white. So thinking of the world from a very colored perspective, where you're willing to see all the differences and the different colors for what they are, versus thinking of the world in a very black and white perspective, where it's all or nothing. Like, it is either this or that, and there's not a lot of variation, and your variation is all gray. So it's, I don't know, it feels very sad to me to think of it in that perspective, but it's yin yang. They have to balance each other out, and they will always balance each other out. So it's like that dimmer of hope in the darkness, that the darkness always has to outweigh, like, not outweigh, they always balance each other out. And when there's darkness, there will be light, and when there is light, there will eventually be dark again. But I don't know, that got weird. Not really. I think you get what I mean. My point is really that fantasy isn't about escaping this world, but learning to see it differently. And there are so many different systems that govern the world that affect how the characters interact. There's the magic, government, politics, ecosystems. They all impact the type of story you're going to tell. In a fantasy world, it's expected that these elements are somewhat different, and they've been morphed to fit what the writer believes about cause and effect, power and meaning, their own personal symbolism, and the lessons that they want to bring out, their fears, their identities. Just, there's so much of themselves poured into it, and there was something I wanted to say about that, and now I can't. I don't know. I have, like, a script written out, and I feel like I have to read it because I had good points in it, but, like, also I feel like part of it is being more authentic and recording it just and having that conversation of it being less unscripted, which is hard because then I have these moments here where it's like I don't really know what to talk about necessarily, or I forgot my train of thought, which is more often than not. But we'll talk about this drawing. How about that? This is my favorite one, I think. It is a saxophone, like a zoomed-in version of a saxophone, and it's for button, because the little keys are like buttons, and I don't know. I just love how much I thought outside of the box on this one, and it turned out so good. I've never really drawn this close-up of a saxophone, and instruments are hard because they have all the, like, rods and doohickeys and pins and needles and all kinds of stuff attached to them, so they're kind of like, they're just, They're hard. I don't know. But, oh, and then I forgot to record for Firefly, but I just drew a Firefly, so I was like, it's not that big a deal. And then it's got the blast, is the stuff at the bottom is the blast from the blast special cyberpunky futuristic gun that totally doesn't look like I just colored. I don't know. It's very simplistic drawing, and many of these are, but I don't know. If you really think about it, all of these little doodles are, I could connect them all to steampunk in my fantasy world in some way. Oh, yeah, 100% could I. And I don't know if someone didn't stop me, I don't know if I would like run out of things to talk about it, which is both the blessing and a curse, because it means that I have so many ideas, and I'm like, how do they all connect? And just, I don't know. It's hard going off script a little bit, but, I guess we have Magnus again, and he is headbutting, and I kept this in because, I don't know, I feel like he needs his moment, and I know I need to constantly remind you guys that this is happening regardless of if I'm recording it or not. Like, this happens all the time, especially like when I'm editing and stuff. He will demand to sit in my lap and then just headbutt me the entire time. It's adorable and I love it. Or he'll be a nuisance in the sense that he will try to eat my curtain lights in my art corner, and he'll like play bite them, but he knows he's not supposed to play with them, because it's to the point that if I stand up and look at him, he runs away from it, and he knows that he's not supposed to play with them, but he continues to do it. And it was actually perfect timing, because in my voiceover, he started like meowing really obnoxiously in it, but then he also appeared on camera at the same time, and that was not at all planned. So that was earlier in the video. I don't know if you caught that, but that's a little Easter egg you can go back and look for now. And now here I'm doing, actually, this brings up a good point of, perfect. I learned a lot about camera angles in this, and just, I can't put the camera on the right side of my hand, because I write with my right hand, and so, or I draw, I guess, whatever, with my right hand, and so when it's on the right, you can't see what I'm doing. So there's a few where you can't really see what I'm doing, so I apologize for that, but I'm learning, and there are moments that I'm conscientious of it, and then there are not, and I'm still trying to figure out and learn how to get actually good camera angles, so that I'm just working with my little GoPro, and yeah, so this is Dante's Inferno, which is the like 9 layers of hell. And the prompt is Inferno. So that's kind of where my brain went with that, I guess. But it is 9 levels, and eventually they get to have more rings. Like, one of them has like 10. I think it's the 8th circle. But yeah, I'm drawing that all out. I was reading a book about it. I'm still reading the book about it. But yeah, I was like, this is really thinking outside of the box. I don't know if anybody would have thought of that right off the bat. So, it's just that chaos that I bring, but let's see, what were some of the other things that I would like to bring back? Okay, so I've been gathering little bits of pieces of information through the last 2 months of this, like, fantasy world, right? I've completed 2 journals of, like, active tarot and oracle readings that have, like, a lot of, like, their inspiration. They're almost like creating prompts for the world. And I finally feel like I have enough to lay the groundwork for an outline. And I mean, these dots are like all over the place. It's pretty chaotic. I don't know how I'm going to connect it all, and I get overwhelmed just thinking about it. And like the amount of work that still needs to go into it, and just it feels unobtainable in certain ways, but I'm not framing it in that way, and I take a perspective back and really how do I want to say this? Really focus on the small steps, that like there's a skill of one thing at a time. Like only thinking about, okay, this character is like this and this is their motive or whatever. And now that I've completed 2 of these journals, I feel like I have a lot more, I'm able to go with a lot more intention behind it, and not see, this is where I get nervous, because I like forget where I'm going when I talk, and then I just pause forever and I'm like, where was I going? I don't remember. But we have this drawing, and this is the only prompt that I combined prompts with. And that was because I got 2 days behind. And that was one of the things that I tried really hard about this time around, was to never get more than 2 days behind. And I really recommend doing that. But I got 2 days more behind, and it was so daunting to try to think of 3 separate things. And I looked at the 3 words together, and I was like, oh, this is an idea that I thought of immediately. Of course I want to do a skeleton eating onions that's puzzled thinking about puzzles. Like, of course I had to. I couldn't get that idea out of my head, so it needed to be a real thing. So here we go. But yeah, what it really comes down to, though, is the small things. And in order to build a fantasy world, you have to be able to imagine it's a fantasy world. So whatever you can think of, like anything I can imagine, I can make possible in this world. When you have that much possibility, where do you even start? And like, I've been actively working on this since September, where I've been doing stuff daily for it. But in reality, I've been working on it for the last 4-5 years maybe. And it's these little tiny things that keep building up. And before September started, I really didn't have much. I had Aether. I had that character, and I knew he was the main character, but I didn't really have a plot. And in so many ways, what I'm learning is just how much this world is really a reflection of me and my life experience. And now that I've seen this side of literature, it's changed my whole perspective on what it means to be a writer. I now see how these writers that are building all of these new worlds with different rules and systems than our own, and just how much of themselves gets poured into it. And I actually have had to stop reading a little bit while doing this, and reading more nonfiction, which I didn't really realize was happening, but I think I was just kind of naturally doing it without really understanding why. Because before, for almost over a year, I had gotten up, I would get up really early in the morning and read and have coffee. This was over a year time span for sure. And I would get up at 5 in the morning. I still get up quite early. And I would have coffee and I would read. And I would read for 2 hours. And this got replaced in September by doing tarot and oracle readings. And I think it naturally became a shift, because I was no longer reading to be inspired, but I was doing it myself, and I was brainstorming, and I took that time and I did it for something else. So I don't know, it's been really weird that now that I'm trying to write my own story, it's really hard for me to read other stories and get into them, I guess. I don't know. Maybe it is just I got really into a reading slump. I'm not really into reading, got a different hyperfixation going on, but I like to think of it as something more profound, rather than it being that. I don't know. But here we are at the end. We have reached prompt 31, and I made an award of someone carving out a trophy in a pumpkin that is the trophy of completing all 31 prompts of Inktober for the first time ever. And I am taking this moment of we'll give it a pause, an actual pause. I'll try really hard to actually pause. Okay, here we go. Okay, that feels long enough, and that's really actually good timing, because now we get a viewpoint of the final versions. So here are all 31 prompts, with the exception of 3 of them in one. But that idea was just too good. Like, come on. I don't know. But, oh, it was Magnus's Gotcha Day this year, or this month. October 7th is Gotcha Day. Page 2 took 4 pages. So, well, 3.5, because it only took one side of the 2 pages. But, like, 3 spreads, 1 page, so 7 pages? Yeah, that's how that works. But, yeah, I'm really happy with all, like, some of the drawings, like, on their own by themselves, I don't know if I'd really be, like, that happy with them. But I think because it's all part of the collective whole, it makes it more meaningful. So, I don't know. I hope you guys enjoyed, and as always, hit subscribe, like, share, do all of the things. It really helps the channel grow, and I'm hoping to do this long term, and really am excited to see where it's going to go. And as always, stay chaotic, stay creative, and I love you guys.